The Galactic Council chamber had been designed to intimidate. Suspended in orbit around a white dwarf star, the structure curved like a hollowed ring of polished obsidian, its inner surface lined with tiers of delegates from 1,000 civilizations. Light from the star bled through the transparent inner shield, washing the chamber in a cold, unwavering glow. Every voice carried. Every decision echoed. At the center, a circular platform rotated slowly, displaying the insignias of member species. One emblem, however, remained dim. Humanity's. Ambassador Thalek Vorn stood at his assigned station, his elongated fingers resting lightly on the console's edge. His species, the Caliph, valued composure above all else, and Thalek embodied it. His posture was perfect. His breathing steady. His gaze unwavering. Yet his attention kept drifting to the empty seat across the chamber. It had not been removed. Not archived, not reassigned. It remained exactly as it had been 47 cycles ago, unoccupied, untouched, and increasingly uncomfortable to acknowledge. They left without dignity. Counselor Resch of the Valori was saying, his voice carrying a sharp, metallic resonance. No formal withdrawal. No declaration. Just absence. It is not the conduct of a species worthy of this assembly. A ripple of agreement passed through the chamber. Thalek said nothing. He had heard this argument countless times. Humans were impulsive, unstable, brilliant in fragments but unreliable in unity. Their departure, many believed, had been inevitable. Still, something about it had never aligned with Thalek's understanding. Humans were erratic, yes, but not careless. Let us not waste further time revisiting their failure. Another delegate interjected. We have immediate concerns. 3 outer colonies have gone silent within the last rotation. That drew attention. Thalek straightened slightly. Clarify, he said, his voice calm but firm. The chamber dimmed as a projection expanded above the central platform. 3 star systems blinked into view, each marked in red. Mining outpost K-72 ceased all transmissions. The speaker continued. Initial assumption was equipment malfunction. Then Station Helix 9 reported identical anomalies before contact was lost. Now, the viral defense perimeter. Thalek finished, eyes narrowing. A pause. Then a nod. Yes. Murmurs rose, no longer dismissive but uncertain. Military installations did not simply vanish. Debris? Thalek asked. None. Distress signals? None. That stilled the room. Silence in space was not unusual. Silence without cause was. Piracy? Someone suggested. Unlikely, another countered. No known faction possesses that level of precision. Then an unknown aggressor, Counselor Resch said. A species beyond Council records. Thalek's gaze remained fixed on the projection. 3 systems. No warning. No trace. No, he said quietly. The word cut through the chamber more sharply than any raised voice. Resch turned. You disagree? I question the assumption, Thalek replied. An aggressor leaves evidence, damage, energy signatures, movement patterns. This, he gestured toward the red markers. This is absence. Clean. Immediate. Coordinated. You imply intent without identity. I imply design. The distinction settled heavily. For a moment, no one spoke. Then a junior analyst from the archival division requested permission to present. The council, eager for direction, granted it. A new projection replaced the map, layers of data streams, timestamps, fragmented telemetry. At first glance, it appeared chaotic. Then patterns began to emerge. Signal decay occurred simultaneously across multiple frequencies. The analyst explained. Not interference, removal. As though the systems themselves were switched off. That is impossible, Resch snapped. No external force can override infrastructure at that scale without detection. The analyst hesitated. There is one anomaly. Proceed. A cross-reference triggered in the restricted archive. Similar signal patterns were documented once before. Thalek felt something shift in his chest. When? The analyst glanced down, uncertain. 49 cycles ago. The chamber stilled. Source? Thalek asked. Another pause. Then, human predictive models. A wave of reactions followed: dismissal, irritation, thinly veiled disdain. Speculation, Resch said immediately. Human projections were notoriously exaggerated. Perhaps, Thalek replied. But they were also precise when correct. He stepped forward, voice sharpening slightly. Access the file. The analyst hesitated again. It is classified at the highest level. Authorization requires. Override, Thalek said. You do not have unilateral clearance. Then I request Council consensus. That sparked immediate debate. We cannot base decisions on obsolete human paranoia. 3 systems have vanished. Correlation is not causation. Thalek did not raise his voice. He didn't need to. We are not discussing belief, he said. We are discussing data. If the models are irrelevant, we confirm that and move on. If they are not, he let the sentence hang. The implication was clear. Reluctantly, the council yielded. Access granted, Resch said, though his tone carried no approval. The chamber darkened further as the archive unlocked. A single file appeared. No title. No authorship. Just a timestamp, dated days before humanity's departure. Thalek felt a faint tightening in his throat. Open it, he said. The projection flickered. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the screen filled with a simulation. Stars blinked out. Not dimming. Not exploding. Simply, gone. System after system vanished in precise, expanding patterns. No debris fields. No radiation bursts. Just absence spreading like a silent tide. A voice accompanied the visual, human, steady, unhurried. This is not an invasion. The chamber fell utterly still. It is not war, and it cannot be negotiated with. It does not target. It does not choose. It propagates. The simulation accelerated. Entire sectors disappeared. We do not yet understand its origin. Only its behavior. It removes. Completely. The voice paused, then continued. You will not see it coming. By the time you detect it, you are already within its boundary. The projection ended. No one spoke. Thalek's gaze remained fixed on the empty space where the stars had been. Was this confirmed? Someone finally asked. The analyst shook his head. No recorded incidents matched the model. The file was archived as theoretical. Convenient, Resch muttered. Thalek didn't respond immediately. His thoughts moved carefully, aligning pieces that had never quite fit before. 49 cycles ago, humans predicted a phenomenon capable of erasing systems without trace. 47 cycles ago, they left. Now systems were vanishing. Not attacked. Removed. Is there more? Thalek asked. The analyst hesitated once more. There is a secondary layer. Further access is restricted. Unlock it. This level requires. Do it, Thalek said, and this time there was no room for argument. The analyst complied. A new file appeared, encrypted more heavily than the first. For a fraction of a second, Thalek considered the possibility that this was nothing. That the connection was coincidence. Then the file opened. And everything changed. His posture, so carefully controlled, shifted almost imperceptibly. Ambassador? Resch asked. What is it? Thalek did not answer immediately. When he finally spoke, his voice was quieter than before. They didn't leave because they were weak, he said. The chamber leaned in. They left. Thalek continued, eyes still fixed on the unfolding data. Because they knew. A silence deeper than any before settled over the council. And for the first time in 47 cycles, the empty human seat no longer felt irrelevant. It felt like a warning. The file did not behave like the others. It did not open into a clean projection or a structured report. Instead, it unfolded in fragments, layered encryptions peeling back one at a time, as though resisting exposure. Thalek stood motionless while streams of human data resolved into something coherent. The chamber remained silent. Even Counselor Resch, who rarely surrendered the floor, said nothing. At last, the projection stabilized. A three-dimensional lattice filled the space above the central platform, lines intersecting across map star systems, forming a web that extended far beyond known Council territories. Nodes pulsed faintly at regular intervals, each positioned with deliberate precision. "What is this?" someone asked. Thalek didn't answer immediately. His eyes tracked the pattern, tracing connections, recognizing intent beneath complexity. "Not a map," he said at last. "A structure." The analyst magnified a section. Each node corresponded to a system, some inhabited, others long abandoned, a few entirely unremarkable. There was no obvious logic in their placement. Until the overlay shifted. A second projection appeared beneath it, the same simulation from the earlier file, the silent erasure spreading through space. This time, however, the lattice remained visible. And where the two intersected, something remarkable emerged. The expansion slowed. Not halted. Not reversed. But disrupted. The room absorbed the implication slowly. "They built this," Thalek said. Resch frowned. "Built what?" "A containment network." The word carried weight. "That is speculation," Resch replied, though his tone lacked its usual certainty. Thalek gestured toward the projection. "The nodes align with predicted propagation vectors. Each one interrupts the pattern, altering its path. Not stopping it, redirecting it. Delaying expansion." The analyst's hands moved rapidly over the console. "He's correct. The simulation recalibrates when the lattice is active. Spread rate decreases by significant margins." "How significant?" another voice pressed. "Without it, projected system loss reaches critical density within 12 cycles. With it," the analyst paused, recalculating. "Indefinite delay, provided maintenance is sustained." That last phrase hung in the air. "Maintenance?" Resch echoed. Thalek felt the answer before he saw it. "Continue," he said. The file advanced. This time, the projection shifted from abstract models to recorded logs. Human. Unmistakably so. A figure appeared, grainy, unpolished, seated before a terminal cluttered with instruments. No formal attire. No council insignia. Just a person speaking directly to the record. "We ran the simulations again," the human said. "Different variables, different starting conditions. Doesn't matter. Outcomes consistent." They leaned back, exhaustion visible even through the distortion. "We're not dealing with something that thinks. It doesn't adapt. It doesn't strategize. It just executes. Like gravity. Or entropy." The figure paused, rubbing their eyes. "We can't fight it. But we can stall it." The projection shifted again, showing construction schematics, vast installations anchored in deep space, each one mirroring the nodes in the lattice. "Anchors," the human continued. "They stabilize local space-time fluctuations. Disrupt the propagation field. It's not perfect, but it buys time." "How much?" Thalek murmured. The recording answered him. "Best case? Decades. Maybe longer if we keep recalibrating." A murmur spread through the chamber. "Why was this never presented to the council?" someone demanded. The file answered that too. Another recording surfaced. This one from a formal session, human delegates standing before the council, presenting the same models now displayed in the chamber. "We are advising immediate allocation of resources to construct a containment grid," one human representative was saying. "Delay increases risk exponentially." The memory replayed the response. Dismissal. Concerns about cost. Questions about credibility. Accusations of alarmism. The human delegation had argued, presented evidence, revised projections. It had made no difference. They were ignored, Thalek said quietly. Resh shifted, visibly uncomfortable. The data was inconclusive. It was sufficient, Thalek replied. We chose not to act. The recording ended. The chamber returned to present time, the lattice still pulsing overhead. And so they built it anyway, the analyst whispered. Yes, Thalek said. But how? Another delegate asked. The scale alone. Distributed construction, Thalek answered. Automated systems. Independent logistics. They didn't need approval. Only time. And they had it. Someone added. 47 cycles. Long enough to build a network spanning half the galaxy. Long enough to prepare. Long enough to leave. Thalek felt a slow, creeping realization settle into place. They didn't abandon us, he said. Resh looked at him sharply. They disappeared. They relocated. Thalek corrected. Somewhere outside conventional space. The logs indicate ongoing calibration is required to maintain node stability. And you believe they're still operating this system? Thalek didn't respond immediately. Instead, he pointed to the projection. Look! The analyst adjusted the display, isolating several nodes. Their pulses, once steady, now flickered irregularly. Energy output is declining, the analyst confirmed. Synchronization errors increasing. A cold understanding spread through the room. They're failing, someone said. Or dying, Thalek thought, though he did not voice it. A sharp tone cut through the chamber, an incoming transmission alert. All stations, priority signal, the communications officer announced. Recon fleet approaching viral perimeter reporting anomaly. Patch it through, Thalek ordered. The projection shifted again, this time showing the bridge of a council cruiser. The image was unstable, distorted by interference. This is Captain Elin Var. The voice came through, strained but controlled. We've reached the outer boundary. There's something here. Define something, Resh demanded. The captain hesitated. Space isn't behaving correctly. Static flared. Coordinates aren't aligning. Our sensors. The feed glitched, then stabilized briefly. Behind the captain, the viewport showed a starfield that bent in unnatural ways, light curving, stretching, collapsing inward as though drawn into an invisible point. It's like the simulation, the analyst whispered. We're deploying probes, the captain continued. Attempting to. The transmission cut. No explosion. No warning. Just silence. The chamber froze. Re-establish contact. Resh snapped. No response, the communications officer replied. Signal lost. Thalek's gaze returned to the lattice. Another node flickered. Then dimmed. The overlay updated automatically. The containment field in that region weakened. And the simulation, no longer theoretical, advanced. A new system blinked out. Not on a screen this time. In reality. A low, collective breath moved through the chamber. It's begun, someone said. No, Thalek corrected, his voice steady despite the weight pressing against it. It began long ago. He turned back to the archive, searching. There's more, he said. There has to be. The system responded, revealing a final encrypted segment. Unlike the others, this one did not resist. It opened immediately. A single line of text appeared. No simulation. No voice. Just words. If you are seeing this, the network is failing. The chamber seemed to contract around it. Thalek stepped closer, reading aloud. We maintain the anchors as long as possible. Without constant adjustment, they will collapse. You cannot repair them using conventional methods. He paused, then continued. But you can choose to continue what we started. A second line appeared beneath the first. Coordinates. Dozens of them. Spread across the lattice. What is this? Resh asked, though his voice had lost its earlier edge. Thalek stared at the data, mind racing. A contingency, he said. For what? Thalek exhaled slowly. For when we realized too late that they were right. He looked up, meeting the gaze of every delegate in the chamber. They didn't just predict this, he said. They prepared for our failure. The implication settled heavily. The empty human seat no longer felt like a relic. It felt like an absence that had been holding something together. And now, whatever had been contained was no longer waiting. The galaxy did not collapse all at once. It unraveled. At first, the losses came as isolated incidents, distant systems quietly erased, their absence recorded with sterile precision. Then the intervals shortened. The pattern accelerated. What had been 3 vanished sectors became 9. 9 became 17. Each report arrived the same way. No signal. No wreckage. No survivors. Just absence. The Galactic Council chamber no longer felt like a place of authority. It had become a war room without an enemy, a command center without a battlefield. Voices that once debated policy now clashed over survival. We cannot defend against nothing, Councillor Resch snapped, his composure finally fractured. You are asking us to mobilize fleets against empty space. We are asking you to act. Thalek replied, his tone level but unyielding. Act how? Another delegate demanded. Your containment network is failing. The humans built it. They maintained it. We do not understand it. That is no longer an excuse. The chamber bristled at that. Thalek stepped forward, abandoning the distance he once maintained. The controlled diplomat was still there, but something sharper had taken hold beneath the surface. 17 systems have vanished, he said. Each loss reduces our capacity to respond. If we continue debating feasibility, there will be nothing left to protect. And if we attempt intervention without understanding? Resch countered. We risk accelerating the collapse. Thalek met his gaze. Inaction guarantees it. Silence followed. Not agreement, just the absence of alternatives. Finally, the communications officer broke in. New update. Node cluster near the viral perimeter has destabilized further. Energy output approaching 0. Thalek didn't hesitate. Prepare an expedition. Resch stiffened. You intend to go there? Yes. With what fleet? Half our military is already stretched across defensive lines. Then we send what we have. That is not strategy, Resch said sharply. That is desperation. It is necessity. Their eyes held for a moment, 2 opposing philosophies colliding under pressure. Then, slowly, Resch exhaled. Very well, he said. A joint task group. Limited assets. Agreed. The decision rippled outward, orders relayed, ships mobilized. For the first time since the crisis began, the Council was moving with purpose. The journey to the viral perimeter took less than a standard cycle. Thalek stood on the observation deck of the command vessel, watching the stars shift as the fleet dropped out of transit. Space here felt different. Not hostile, not yet, but strained, as though something unseen pressed against the fabric of reality. Sensor readings are unstable, the ship's captain reported. Gravitational fluctuations inconsistent with known models. Thalek nodded. Maintain distance from the anomaly. The fleet formed a cautious perimeter. Then they saw it. The human structure. It did not resemble anything the Council had ever built. No symmetry, no aesthetic design, just vast, intersecting planes of dark material suspended in defiance of conventional physics. It stretched across thousands of kilometers, its edges fading into the void like unfinished geometry. It's enormous, the captain murmured. Thalek said nothing. Size was irrelevant. Purpose was everything. Any activity? He asked. Minimal, the sensor officer replied. Energy output is decaying. A flicker passed through the structure, brief, uneven. Like a failing heartbeat. We're already late, Thalek said quietly. He turned. Prepare a boarding team. The interior of the structure defied expectation. There were no corridors in the traditional sense, no clear pathways. Instead, the environment shifted subtly as they moved, surfaces reconfiguring, angles adjusting, guiding them deeper without visible mechanisms. Adaptive architecture, one of the engineers whispered. It's responding to us. Thalek focused ahead. Or to something else. They reached a central chamber. At its core stood a column of light, faint, unstable, flickering between coherence and collapse. Streams of data flowed through it, incomprehensible at first glance, but unmistakably deliberate. This is the control interface, the lead technician said. Or what remains of it. Access it, Thalek ordered. The technician hesitated. We don't know how it. Try. Reluctantly, the team moved forward. Instruments connected. Data streams surged. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the column brightened. Not fully, just enough to respond. Symbols appeared, shifting rapidly, then stabilizing into a form the team could interpret. Human language. A collective breath passed through the chamber. It's recognizing us, the technician said. Adjusting output. Can you translate? Thalek asked. Working on it. Seconds stretched. Then, I have something. The projection resolved into a recorded message. A human figure appeared, clearer than the earlier archives. Older. Tired. But focused. If you're seeing this, the human began. Then the anchor is failing. No introduction. No explanation. Just fact. We designed these structures to stabilize localized distortions. They don't stop the event. They slow it down. Give you time. The figure leaned closer, eyes sharp despite the fatigue. But they require constant recalibration. Manual input. Adaptive adjustments based on real-time data. Thalek felt the weight of the words settle in. Why manual? One of the engineers whispered. The recording answered. Because no fixed system can predict the variance. It changes too subtly. Too fast. You need intuition. Pattern recognition beyond static programming. A pause. We tried automation. It failed. The chamber grew colder. We stayed. The human continued. We moved operations outside standard space to maintain synchronization across the network. It was the only way. Thalek's breath slowed. They didn't leave, he said softly. They relocated, the technician replied. To keep this running. The recording continued. If you're accessing this, then we couldn't sustain it. Either we ran out of time, or we ran out of people. The words hit harder than any previous revelation. Without calibration, the anchors collapse, the human said. And when they do, the spread accelerates. The image flickered, destabilizing. But there's a fallback. New data appeared, complex, dense, layered with instructions. A synchronized reset. You'll need to channel energy through the network, reinitialize the anchors simultaneously. The technician's hands froze over the controls. That's impossible, he said. Not impossible, Thalek replied. Just beyond us. The recording pressed on. It won't last forever. But it'll buy you time. Enough to figure out what we couldn't. The human's expression softened, just slightly. Assuming you choose to try. The message ended. Silence filled the chamber. For a long moment, no one moved. Then the ship's comms crackled. Ambassador. The captain's voice came through, strained. You need to see this. Thalek turned. Project it. The chamber's walls shifted, displaying the external feed. Space itself was bending. Not dramatically, no violent distortions, no catastrophic collapse. Just a subtle warping, like heat rippling through air. Except this was vacuum. And at the center of it, nothing. A region where stars simply stopped. That's the boundary, the captain said. It was closer than expected. Much closer. How long? Thalek asked. Minutes, the captain replied. The room tightened. The engineer looked back at the interface. We don't have time to understand this. No, Thalek said. We don't. He stepped forward, placing his hand on the console. Then we follow the instructions. Resh's voice came through the comms, sharp with disbelief. You intend to activate a system you barely comprehend while standing inside a failing structure on the edge of whatever that thing is? Yes. That is not strategy, Resh said again. Thalek's gaze remained fixed on the flickering column of light. It's survival. A pause. Then, quieter. Do it. Thalek exhaled slowly. Around him, the team moved with urgency, aligning systems, interpreting fragments of human design with incomplete understanding. Outside, the boundary advanced. Inside, a dead civilization's last defense flickered on the edge of extinction. And for the first time, Thalek understood the true cost of humanity's absence. They had not just left a seat empty. They had left a burden no one else was prepared to carry. The structure groaned without sound. Thalek felt it through the deck beneath his feet, a subtle, constant tremor that had no vibration, no frequency. It wasn't mechanical. It was wrong, as if the space they occupied resisted itself. Stability dropping, the technician reported. Anchor coherence at 12%. Begin synchronization, Thalek said. Hands moved fast across unfamiliar interfaces. Symbols shifted, rearranged, translated imperfectly through layered systems that had never been designed for anyone but their creators. We can't align all nodes manually, another engineer said. There are too many variables. Then we approximate, Thalek replied. That's not how this works, the engineer shot back. Approximation introduces drift. Drift collapses the system. Then eliminate drift. A strained laugh escaped someone in the chamber. If it were that simple. It is not, Thalek said. But it is necessary. Outside, the boundary advanced. The projection displayed it clearly now, a region where reality thinned to nothing. Stars bent toward it, their light swallowed without distortion. No explosion, no collapse. Just absence. Time? Thalek asked. 2 minutes, the captain answered. Not enough. It would never be enough. Energy input is ready, the technician said. Fleet is standing by. Signal them. The comms channel opened, linking every vessel in range. Voices overlapped briefly, commanders confirming readiness, systems reporting status, fear buried beneath discipline. This is Ambassador Thalek Vorn, he said, his voice steady across the network. You have received the parameters. On my mark, all ships will channel power into the anchor grid. Synchronization must be precise. And if it isn't? A voice asked. Thalek did not hesitate. Then we fail. Silence followed. Then acknowledgments, one after another. No one withdrew. Thalek closed the channel. Synchronization window? He asked. 40 seconds, the technician replied. After that, the node collapses. Understood. He stepped closer to the central interface. The column of light flickered weakly, its once stable flow now fragmented, struggling to maintain coherence. This system wasn't meant for us, the engineer said quietly. No, Thalek agreed. It wasn't. He placed his hand against the console. Begin. Energy surged. Across the fleet, reactors pushed beyond standard limits, channeling power into the network. The structure responded immediately, light intensifying, pattern stabilizing for the first time since their arrival. Node 1 synchronized. Node 3, partial alignment. Node 7, drifting. Corrected, Thalek said. We're trying. Data flooded the chamber, overwhelming, chaotic. Human systems adapted in real time, reshaping outputs to match inputs they had never been designed to receive. Anchor integrity rising, 15%, 18. The numbers climbed slowly. Too slowly. Boundary closing, the captain warned. 1 minute. The projection showed it now at the edge of the system. A thin, invisible line beyond which nothing remained. Focus on the primary nodes, Thalek ordered. Secondary anchors can stabilize later. That increases stress on the network. It increases survival probability. The technician hesitated, then nodded. Redirecting. The lattice shifted, prioritizing key intersections. Energy flow intensified, pushing the system toward alignment. 24%, 29. A sudden fluctuation rippled through the interface. Node 5 collapsing! Someone shouted. The projection flickered, one of the lattice points dimming rapidly. If it goes, the chain reaction. I know, Dalek said. He stepped forward, closer to the failing node's control stream. The data was incomprehensible at first glance. Layered variables, shifting parameters, patterns within patterns. Human design. Adaptive. Intuitive. Not fixed. Let me see it, he said. You can't interpret that in time, the engineer protested. I don't need to interpret it, Dalek replied. I need to understand it. He focused. Not on the symbols, but on the movement. The rhythm. The way the system responded to imbalance. It wasn't random. It was reacting. Adjusting. He reached out, altering the input manually, small corrections, guided by instinct rather than calculation. For a moment, nothing changed. Then, Node 5 stabilizing, the technician said, disbelief creeping into his voice. Dalek exhaled slowly. Maintain that pattern, he said. You're guessing, the engineer said. Yes. And it worked. For now. The numbers climbed again. 35%, 40. Outside, the boundary reached the outer edge of the structure. Space folded inward, pressing against the anchor's influence. 30 seconds, the captain called. The chamber tightened. Push more energy, Dalek ordered. We're at maximum output. Then exceed it. That will overload the fleet reactors. It will keep them alive. A pause. Then the technician relayed the command. Across the fleet, systems strained. Power surged beyond safe thresholds, feeding into the network with increasing intensity. The structure responded. Light flared, no longer flickering but burning with unstable brilliance. 50%, 58. The boundary pressed closer. For a moment, it seemed inevitable that the wave would consume them before the system could respond. Then, 70%! The lattice snapped into alignment. Not perfectly. Not cleanly. But enough. A pulse surged outward from the structure, rippling through space. The boundary halted. Not reversed. Not destroyed. Stopped. The chamber held its breath. Stability? Dalek asked. Holding, the technician said, voice unsteady. 72% and climbing. Outside, the distortion receded slightly, not vanishing, but retreating, as though pushed back by an invisible force. The system was working. Not as intended. But working. A collective exhale moved through the chamber. We did it, someone whispered. Dalek didn't respond. He was still watching the data. Not completely, he said. The technician followed his gaze. The lattice remained active, but its output was uneven. Several nodes flickered weakly, their energy signatures barely stable. This won't last, the engineer realized. No, Dalek said. Silence returned, heavier now. They had bought time. Nothing more. A new signal appeared on the interface. Faint. Irregular. Receiving transmission, the technician said. Source unknown. Patch it through. The chamber dimmed as the signal resolved. At first, it was nothing but static. Then a shape emerged. A face. Human. Worn. Pale. Eyes sunken but alert. Signal received, the figure said, voice barely audible. Unexpected, but not unwelcome. Dalek stepped forward. You're still alive. A faint smile touched the human's expression. Barely. How many of you remain? Dalek asked. A pause. Not enough. The answer needed no elaboration. You maintained the network, Dalek said. For all this time. We held it together. the human replied. As long as we could. Why didn't you return? Inform us? The human's gaze softened. You didn't listen when we tried. The words carried no accusation. Just truth. Thalek inclined his head. That was our failure. Another pause. Then the human spoke again. You stabilized the anchors, they said. That buys time. How much? Thalek asked. The human considered. Enough to matter. Not enough to relax. The signal flickered, weakening. We can't sustain this much longer. The human continued. You'll have to take over. We will, Thalek said. A faint nod. Then maybe it wasn't wasted. The transmission dissolved into static. Gone. Thalek remained where he stood, the silence that followed heavier than any before. Behind him, the chamber began to move again, engineers recalibrating, commanders issuing orders, systems adjusting to a fragile stability. But something fundamental had shifted. The empty human seat in the council chamber was no longer a symbol of absence. It was a measure of cost. Later, when the fleet returned, the council reconvened. The chamber felt different. Quieter. More aware. Thalek stood before them, the weight of what he had seen etched into his posture. They did not abandon us, he said. No one interrupted. They carried a burden we refused to acknowledge. They held back something we did not understand. And they did it alone. His gaze moved across the assembly. We have inherited that responsibility. A pause. We will not fail again. The chamber remained silent. Not in doubt, but in recognition. Above them, the human seat remained empty. But now, it was no longer ignored. It was honored. And for the first time, the galaxy understood what it had nearly lost.